Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for tonight's episode of Behind the Screen. We are joined today with all female or non-binary, I can speak English, dungeon masters. So let's go ahead and jump right in. If you're watching right now in chat, you can use the link to leave us a question so that we can answer it and help you with your D&D or DM experience. If you are listening post, well, can't leave us any questions, but you can always join us on the next Behind the Screen and we'll try and answer your questions then. But let's go across the table here and tell us about yourself, your preferred pronouns, and maybe how you became a dungeon master or how long you've been a dungeon master. A little bit about yourself. I'll go ahead and start as an example. I'm Nerdy Teacher and my pronouns are she, her. You can find me on Saturdays with the Mountain of Mystery D&D stream. And I've been a dungeon master since about 2016, 2017, somewhere around in there. Let's go across the screen. I see Texas Celtic, you're first. Go for it.
Hi, Texas Celtic, pronouns she, her. I am a fairly new DM. I am in the process of starting a 3.5 pirate campaign right now. We are actually going to do our session 0 probably tomorrow night. Pretty new to D&D, kind of fell into DMing. We had a interesting experience with the DM and we decided to go out on our own. Me and if you see in chat, Tristan, she is my co-DM.
Awesome. All right. How about Cassie Roll?
Hey, I'm Casserole, or Cassie, and I go by they, them. I'm the DM of Chosen Ones, which is a visual novel style D&D podcast. You can find us on my personal YouTube under the same name, Casserole, spelled like you see on screen, because I made it when I was like 9. Didn't know how to spell casserole, but that's where you can find us. I started DMing in 2017, 2018, it was my senior year of college, and it was just meant to be like a quick thing, and then it became my whole life. So, did a little bit of DMing in high school, but whenever we played, we called D&D. It really wasn't D&D, we pretended we were following the rules, but we just did whatever. And then later, when I actually learned how to play D&D, I learned we weren't doing it correctly. But, that's kind of how it goes, I feel like, a lot of times. But glad I found my way back to it, so.
As Cap says, it was meant to be a quick thing, then it became a whole life as an entire mood. Yes, I feel like many of us can relate to that. How about Taylor's Tavern Tales?
Hi, I'm Taylor. I go by she, they, and I've been DMing for about 2-ish years now, but I've been playing for a lot longer, since high school. I'm currently running a Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign, and it's an all-girls campaign. Well, all girls and non-binary. It's very, very fun.
That's going to be wonderful to hear about tonight. And Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Scarlett. I've been a DM since 2019. I've almost exclusively been DMing on Twitch in front of a live audience, so that was a fun way to jump into the hobby. I am also an illustrator and the creator of the Desert Dragons, so if you like cute mashed up art, that's me.
And I believe our mod currently owns some of your Desert Dragon stickers. They're the Crying Podcast.
Hi, I go by Moon. I'm the DM for Spirit Crying Podcast, and I also run and post on the Spirit Crying TikTok page. I've been playing. I dabbled in D&D in high school, but I've been playing sort of more officially since I think it was 2020 after I listened to the Adventures Zone 2 times and decided I needed more. And I started DMing, I think about 3 years ago. I'm just about to finish that film. And we release every other week on Wednesdays.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. And if we end up having any technical difficulties as we go through chat, you can let us know if anything's going on. My DMs here, if there's something going on and we're not paying attention, feel free to, wave your hands in front of the camera, get our attention somehow, messages in Discord, something. But with that being said, we are ready to start our special for today. And I believe we have a link maybe in chat. Maybe the mods can get that going to where you can leave us a question so that we can answer it. But I'm going to go ahead and get us started with a question. We are all female or non-binary DMs, which, as far as I know, is a minority when it comes to the D&D world. And I know that I've had some experiences that were not so wonderful being a female DM in this community. And I like to try and combat that as much as I can, but I am wondering, does anyone else have, you don't have to share a story if you're not comfortable, but has anyone else experienced anything like that as well?
Wasn't
Please go
so
ahead.
much of a it was an interesting experience. It was actually last week. We were running a test out in the local Geek World, and you could kind of tell some of the guy players were a bit uncomfortable with both of us being them. You could tell just the vibe was not as comfortable if it had been because we were the only female DM. That was one thing we did pick up on.
Some of the guys just weren't as comfortable as they could have been. And yeah, I feel like that's fairly common in some instances. More if you are maybe randomly playing at a game shop, like an adventure league. I think people have an expectation of what's going to happen when they go there. And if there's a female DM in front of them, sometimes it blows the synapses of some of the players. Has anyone else had an experience like that?
So my whole experience DMing has been on my own Twitch channel. So I've been very fortunate to be always treated with a level of grace and respect because people are, coming into my home to do this. But where I do see a lot of synapses breaking is when I make TikTok or Instagram content. I'll once in a while I'll make a video talking about some element of the game and someone will leave a comment like, oh, she's played Baldur's Gate 3 once and now thinks she knows what D&D is. And I mean, it's really meaningless, but I do notice it. Like, for some reason, I'm not allowed to know or have opinions on the hobby. But thankfully, they seem to be more and more rare these days, comments like that. But yeah, it is a little unsettling when it happens.
Yeah, I'd say my experiences, just as a non-binary person online, are a little bit different. I've been very lucky that I've actually not been targeted in terms of being assigned female at birth, but definitely people are not happy with the non-binary stuff. So that usually is the kind of comments that I get. People being not kind about the fact that I use they them pronouns, or attacking me in that kind of regard. I think just because of the way that I present online, I look nice today, but I usually am pretty androgynous, so people get confused a lot of times about even what I am. So sometimes I feel like in those cases, people just see the LGBT attached to our name and just automatically assume things and spew comments that can be hateful in that way. But like I said, in some regards, I'm lucky in the sense that people have not targeted me and called me out as a female DM, I guess. And it's usually not about D&D. Usually it's just people being rude about the fact they don't like gay people, So, that's just the internet sometimes.
I don't know if you've ever gotten this, but I get a lot of people who are upset if there's ever, it doesn't even have to be queer specific stuff or gender specific stuff, but it is often. People get upset about making TTRPGs political.
Oh my god.
Which
keep my politics out.
Yeah, I'm for one thing, all all stories. It's like it is impossible. At least I think like it's impossible to separate politics, if that's what they want to call it, like from stories. Like if
Yeah.
like the existence of, I don't know, a woman in a place of power or a queer person being there is political, then like that's just like the existence of, that's just someone existing. So that's, again, yeah, I've only DM'd for women and queer people ever. So I haven't had an experience DMing people. I've just had experience dealing with comments
There's a
on
meme
social media.
online of people of being like lesbian couple, gay couple, normal couple. I see no difference. And and that's kind of establishing something as normal is political. So in
Mhm.
that sense, everything is political, whether you like it or not. There is not a way to be non-political. And even
It's-
you saying I don't want to be political is a stance. So
It's just the politics they don't like is what
yeah,
they don't want.
basically. I'm just vibing. I'm just existing. I'm just here. If me being here is political, then I guess I am political, you know?
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
will say, one of my first long-term campaigns was with a man DM, and I was nervous because my character I created was a lesbian, and like we were meeting her like ex lover or whatever, dramatic stuff. And then he was like, he did such a good job. And I was like,
Aw.
oh, like, wow, like she's really cool. So hashtag not all men, they can do it sometimes.
Taylor, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, well, I've been pretty lucky. I've normally DM'd and just played with my friends. I don't play online very often, but I do make D&D content on YouTube, mostly talking about like horror stories, like Reddit horror stories. And I have similar experiences with people being like, I'm assuming men, thinking that I don't know the rules or I haven't played before. I'm just talking about something that I have no idea. I remember this one comment. It made me laugh, but it's not funny. But
Fair.
a guy commented, "I don't play with females. There's too much drama," and it. Oh.
Oh goodness.
Oh, honey,
I will
it's,
say in
it's
terms
the
of
men that make drama in
mansplaining.
my games.
Exactly. No, that's what I've found. I've never had any bad experiences playing with women or non-binary people. It's always been men who cause drama.
I will say
least-
just in terms of mansplaining online, I do get that. I do
Well-
definitely get that. Which I don't know if it does seem like it's mostly men, unfortunately, but I feel like anyone can just think they know more than me. But I do notice that it does tend to be a tendency of like cis men in my comments, being like, here, let me explain to you since you clearly don't. And I'm like, I'm making a silly meme online, you know?
I think
Yeah.
that I have gotten some mansplaining before. And you know, I want to say that there's people out there who can handle this situation gracefully, and there are those who can't. For example, Casserole, I think it was you that I first commented that I saw a video of you, and I left a comment saying, another female DM, I'm going to instantly follow you. And you left a comment saying that you actually use they, them pronouns, and I apologized and moved on. So, and here we are. So there's, you know, a graceful way to handle this kind of situation. And then there's the mansplaining and other things that can come up.
Yeah, I know people will make mistakes. I'm more sensitive to it than I used to be, and that just comes from trauma. So,
Yeah.
sometimes
Mm.
coming out doesn't always go very well, and I was better before coming out didn't go well. But it's those situations where I am a little more sensitive to it, but I also understand that a lot of people may not have always been exposed to it growing up, and on a video where I don't clearly list my pronouns, it's going to happen, which I don't always do because I'm nervous. I do oftentimes specifically exclude my pronouns from skits that I'm trying to get to go viral because I know that there is a tendency for when people see the pronouns, they will say something about it. So I don't tend to put them on my skits. If it's just me talking and it's not me putting on a character, I do have my pronouns on the screen. And yeah, I no longer check filtered comments because they can be rough. So there are ways to, like, you know, figure out common words that people use to hurt you, and you put those behind a filter so that you don't see them, you know? And I've just learned you don't check those because they are almost always bad. So, you know, what can you do?
Have y'all ever felt that, and maybe not for the couple of you who've said that you play only for your friends or the other women and queer, have you ever felt like some people thought they could get away with more with you as a DM or push you into their narrative? I've sat at a table with some people that I used to play with, and the DM, actually, the male DM, was very forceful with his ideas. And I think he felt like he could steamroll me because I'm this weak little woman at the table. What about you guys?
I'm always the DM, so
Forever DM.
Yup.
Fair?
I could see it happening though, for sure. It's not my story, but it's my aunt's story. She told me that when she was a teenager, she's older now, but when she was a teenager, she played D&D with some boys from her high school, and she had to miss 1 week because missed a session for whatever reason. When she came back, they had let her know that her character was now pregnant. She no longer wanted to play with that group anymore. Hasn't played D&D since.
Wow. I don't
So,
blame her.
Yeah.
It's one thing.
I mean, not wanting to play
Yeah.
since, ouch, that sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it was an older generation before it was like super mainstream. So, like, we're talking the 70s.
Yeah. Oh, but that sucks.
Yeah, I
I'll
was
have her to
horrified
get
when
back
she
into
told me
it.
that. I was like, what the fuck?
Now I kind of want to bring your aunt in and play a one shot.
Mhm.
We'll just be
I
like,
told
"We will
her,
not
I
do
was-
that."
Unfortunately, I feel like she is not into nerdy stuff anymore, you know.
They ruined it.
Yep.
They took away that opportunity. Those
Ugh.
assholes. And
Yep.
I do remember I told this story on TikTok, and I got one commenter saying that my aunt was a misandrist for never giving D&D another chance after that, and that
my
got under my
gosh.
skin. Like, you know what? Just because like she had a bad experience and now she feels uneasy in that environment. So like, stop turning it around and making you the victim.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
never
it has
reply
nothing to do with
directly
you.
to those kinds of comments because I'm too nervous. I don't want them to see I replied to them with a video. So I'll usually reply to someone else who's like, the comments here are not passing the vibe check. And I'll reply to them because I'm like, you're passing the
Yeah.
vibe check. So I'm going to speak
Yeah.
indirectly through your comment. But I am also trying to, I know engaging with that kind of stuff online in general is really bad for me. People who can handle it and make response videos and stuff, more power to you. I mentally, like, it breaks me down over time. I've learned.
It does.
I've tried to do red flags videos in the past. They were actually my most popular videos, and I took them down because of the responses. When you say something is a red flag, then people are offended when they do those things. So you know, so I've taken them away. I was getting a lot of hate, usually specifically around things like, and they do tend to be DMs who just don't have a lot of exposure to things in the world. Like, I've heard of DMs who've had people who've been like, this character is a lesbian, and they're like, I'm going to make a male character to sway your lesbian back to the right side. Which has not happened at any tables that I've been at, but they are horror stories that I've heard just from being in the space. And so, like, those kinds of things, or people being like, I don't allow this kind of identity, like, again, I don't allow politics at my table. Or I do think I heard a story once about someone who wanted to play a male character who identified as female, and their DM was like, no, because you are a lady, so you can't play a male character at the table. And hypocritical because obviously the DM's playing the whole world and has to play female characters, or else there's only men in the world, which some DMs I know have done.
I just
But,
people
you know.
who leave comments offended at those kinds of stories are just outing themselves. So I'm a
Yeah.
little combative. I get a little bitchy. And so I will reply with the most passive aggressive, like, oh, is there something you'd like to share with the class? Or found him. Or just a clown
Found it.
emoji. But then you're right though, it does kind of like eat at your soul because then you get riled up and then it's like you're giving energy to people who don't deserve it. But sometimes it is a little cathartic to get a nice little clap back in there.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
cathartic when I was doing it, but it was the doing it over and over again that I think was kind of killing me.
It's
So
exhausting.
I was like, I'm just gonna remove the videos that are getting this feedback. It was the biggest reason for a while, and a big reason why I pulled back from TikTok was the comments. It was logging in and feeling like I can't take these videos off because they're my most popular videos. I
Mm.
still got followers from them. And then I think I made a video a couple weeks ago. I've been taking a step back for a couple months, so my views on TikTok are abysmal. But I did make a follow-up video being like, if you're looking for these, they're gone. Like, I did not like the reaction to it, and also I've just learned that making what was essentially rage bait content was what attracted that kind of audience. And again,
Yeah.
there's people who have the mentality to be able to deal with that, and I'm a little soft baby who can't. So it was, figuring out my limits as a content creator online and about what I want to make and the audience I want to foster. And I want to vibe and make art online, and that's kind of it. So I'm trying to like get the little voice in my head that like is like, if you make another red flags video, it'll go viral because it happens every time. And I'm like, yes, but that's not what you want to be known for. That's
So-
not what you want to attract,
You could always make the rage bait video right before you're going on vacation and aren't going to look at your phone for a couple days. And that way you could just throw it out there and then just put your phone away and be like, oh.
I was
It
surprised
just
to
sucks
find
that that's what works, It sucks that that is what algorithms want, is they want you to do, because it makes people comment, and then the
Mhm.
videos get pushed up, and it's hard. Even my green flags videos, people get pissed off at, and I'm just like, I can't win. I can never win.
If I want to rage bait, but I don't want to like start a fight, I just mispronounce words on purpose. And then when people try to, so I just posted a video and it was about paladins, but I said paladin. I said paladin twice. And in my comments, it's like people are trying to explain to me how to pronounce it in text. And then I just reply with, that's what I said. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I said. And it farms replies. And it's funny, but it's like, at least no one's going to call me names. They think they're being helpful. And they just don't get it.
I said
All that, and I heard
said-
you say Paladin, and I went, "She's joking, right?"
Every time I need to stir the pot, I just throw that in there. It's so great.
I'm sure people who grew up on books know this. There's lots of words that I don't know that I say wrong until TikTok tells me.
TikTok will tell you.
TikTok will
Yes.
tell me.
It's
And then
bad
they'll
when they
leave a
tell you
comment
and they're
being
wrong.
like, I'd appreciate if you stop correcting me. Like, I get it. I
I
said
made
the
a
word
video
wrong.
about in my video I said the word bestiary because that's the actual pronunciation of that word, but so many people said it's actually
interesting.
bestiary, and I said BEST. I like made a video. I went to Google, typed in the word, and pushed the speech button and recorded it. Bestiary, and I was like, if you're gonna correct me, at least be right. Just be right.
I
Like,
didn't even
check.
know that was how you said it.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
checked before I made the video because I saw the word and I was like, it's just BESTIARY. I thought it would be bestiary, but that I'm gonna double check. And I checked and it was bestiary, so I went and did it. And of course, people come to correct me, and I'm like, I already did my homework. You don't know who you're fucking with right now.
You're getting some recommendations in chat. Let's see. You should do a Duragar pronunciation video. We've gotten Barbarian.
I've done that one, Barbarian.
Yep.
Rouge.
And then Clerics.
Yep. I've made
Rouge is
all those
good.
videos. It's a great way
If
to.
you see
just
me
log
looking over in the corner, it's because my second screen is set up for the Twitch chat, so that's why I keep.
That-
There's not
that's
something really
still mine's
interesting
on
on
that
my
side,
desk.
too.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. If I'm
Yep.
looking over, it's probably because my dogs are, trying to figure out who gets to bed tonight.
Obviously not you, right?
I mean, yes, that is very true. Okay, so we haven't gotten any questions yet, despite having 33 people watching. Anybody have a question? Feel free, mods, if
Yeah.
we can get that link back
Shame
in.
that audience.
We would love to answer your questions. Normally, I get like 3 or 4 by this point, but I'll go ahead and ask a question that's come up prior, and I think maybe this group will have some better insight on it. How do you ensure that at your gaming table, that your gaming table is inclusive and welcoming to all players? How do you ensure that your table is a welcoming space?
Session
I feel-
0.
Yeah, that was
Session
my
zero.
thing for session 0.
Yep.
I think something that's been helpful that I learned about session zeros after my first one was there's for some people there should be an invitation for a private session zero. Like if someone is, for example, if it's a certain like trigger or just something they don't want to be covered, they might not necessarily want to talk about it with everyone at the session zero, but they still need everyone to know. They just don't want to be like the one to have to discuss it, like even
Yeah.
outside of game. So that's been a helpful addition to session zeros. I learned that basically, they have to tell someone. So as the DM at
I
session zero, I
have
can say,
consent forms that are
message me.
private, and they send it to
Mhm.
me, and it's basically like a red light, yellow light, green light
Yes.
system, and then they
Yep.
do
Yeah.
have a private because I don't want to out people's
Exactly.
anxieties. But then at the beginning of my session zeros, I basically lay the rules down. There are no fantasy racism we leave at the door. There's no homophobia, transphobia, sexism, sexual violence that exists in this world. So don't expect it. It just won't exist. And I expect you guys to follow that. I just lay the law down pretty fast. And when I run a game, it is invitation only. Even when I do paid games, I have them send me a form and I handpick who I bring in based on their vibe. And so I do lay the law down pretty early on, and then it's never been a problem in any of my games. I've never had anybody cross that line.
Yeah.
So
It's
Yeah, there are
always
two
Texas
methods that I
Celtic.
use. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say Texas Celtic is about to do a session zero for a pirate campaign. What do you plan to do?
It's mainly we've already kind of had like test sessions, so we've already kind of gotten the vibe for everybody, and we've also been bringing in different players too. But it's also more of, hey, what do y'all expect? And set down, we are new DMs, both of us, so don't try to pull stuff over on us, because if you are, we're not going to put up with it, because this is fun. This is not a see if we can break the game the fast. This is a let's have fun, let's enjoy this, and let's see where we can take it. I mean, it's going to be really cool. We're going to be going all around different islands and throughout different worlds. It's going to be very meta, but it's homebrew, so what do you expect? So that's the main thing, just making sure everybody's going to be comfortable and open and able to be themselves in the thing.
I think
Casserole,
also
you were going to add something? Oh, and Moon?
you go
I
first.
was just saying, I mostly only play with my close friends, so we already have that layer, luckily, of us playing a lot together. But we do have a big enough group that we still do applications for playing games, just to, get a party composition, and the DM picks. But since we have so many players, always too many players, never enough DMs. So we do still do applications, even within our friend group. But the way that I like that is I've done both, where I specifically request people to be in my games, and then I also do the posting. And what's nice about the application process is you can put these triggers are going to be in this game, so
Yep.
don't apply if these things are going to bother you. And then past that point, anyone who's applied, knowing that those things are in the game, then we can address any additional things with their consent forms that they don't want. And then there's things that as a group we obviously won't do across the board that we know, so it's still good to say them to like reassure people they're not going to be in there. But there's things that obviously we just won't touch as concepts no matter what.
Yeah.
I also think like if after session 0 in game, something that's helped, I hope, helped people feel comfortable at the table is, and this might be controversial, but allowing as much retconning as someone wants.
Oh yeah.
Like I think that sometimes you don't realize something is upsetting until maybe you're already in the middle of it, or DMs, like, we're not perfect. Sometimes I'll like forget that something is like kind of like close to the line that someone like didn't want to cross, something like that. So we openly, someone can raise their hand and say like, hey, I need us to redo that scene because of this, and that's been really helpful with just keeping the game going long term, in a way that is still fun for everyone. Because like fantasy angst is great. We love to like cry about our characters, but when you're crying about your characters outside of the game because of something that happened, then that's what we want to avoid. So that's been opening our minds to retconning has been very important.
Being
Yeah,
flexible with your consent sheet and allowing people to change as they go and like inform you is important, because a lot of times people don't know until you're actually doing it. You might be totally okay watching something in a TV show, but experiencing it can be a whole new ball game. People who have never role played and stuff before don't realize how strong character bleed can be sometimes. And
Yeah.
you may not realize something like one of the big ones that I know people address is gaslighting. Like sometimes people are totally fine with watching it in media, but if you have that trauma within your own life, experiencing it as your character can bring that back, and you don't realize it until it happens. So letting people be flexible with changing their consent sheets as they go.
Yeah. I'd like to also point out that like there is a huge difference between a script that has gone through writers and rewrites and a whole process before it is presented to you as a TV show, and improving with a bunch of amateurs who don't have any professional training or any thoughts of how what they're about to do could impact others. And so it is always better to err on the side of caution. And back to the retcon thing, because this isn't a written thing that has gone through rights and rewrites, I think it's totally cool to retcon, even if it's like, hey, remember a couple sessions ago this happened. I'm starting to realize that doesn't work in the story. There's like too many plot holes here, so let's just say that this other thing happened, and you should be totally okay to do that. Because again, this isn't like, it is a bit of a performance art, but because it's improv, there are going to be holes in the story that there should be freedom to fix that if you feel like you need to.
Yeah,
And
and for
most
hard
years-
scenes and stuff, we also have done not really in my public game, which is funny, but in like private games, we've had things kind of scripted out for players in advance. Like, they're like,
Yeah.
here, I'm presenting a scene to you that I want with an NPC, and it's important to me that these things are hit with the NPC. And so, in that sense, there's been a little bit of scripting kind of going on. But that's been helpful in certain senses in terms of like, I've rolled up to a session and someone's given me a Google Doc before, of like, hey, can we do this scene? And I'm like, yeah. And it's not like an actual script, but it's like hey, I want to do this thing. Here's the concepts that I want to make sure that we hit. And there is that element of improv still with the actual execution, but
Right.
like there's some safety with that, knowing about what exactly is going to happen and the player having like it presented beforehand before we actually like go through with it.
I make all of my players, if they're going to have an in-game fight or drama with another character, I ask them to discuss it before it happens. That way they're not like whoa, where's this coming from? So that they
Yeah.
agree that there will be a confrontation. They can act it out. And then I'm like, now have a plan where this is going. I don't need two players or characters hating each other for the rest of the session. Like, have an arc kind of discussed and be open and
Fair.
honest with each other.
Okay. Moon and Taylor, would you like to add anything?
I mean, I also have a consent form, and I'm also very, very lucky that I mostly play with my friends, and I also have this veil of, trust, and we all kind of know each other's boundaries. But I think retconning is also very, very important. That's happened before, and sometimes even with very close friends, we've had to take a step back and just, figure out that we're not okay with certain things that have happened. Yeah. Yeah, but I'm very lucky that my friends and I are pretty comfortable with each other, so we're very open with not crossing boundaries.
Moon?
I feel like that pretty much covers it.
Right. Awesome.
I do
Um,
also just want to reiterate, especially for new DMs, when those accidents happen and you have that moment where someone crosses a line or you cross a line, that's part of the growth as you DM. And it's not you as a failure, as a player, or as a DM making those mistakes. It's important that you acknowledge them, you apologize where necessary, you accept the criticism, whoever is giving it, and then you move on and you learn to try and not make it be a huge deal, like amongst your group. But like communication at the end of the day, whether you're in D&D or real life, is always the most important part of this game.
Totally agree.
100%.
Wonderful. And for anyone out there who is new to DMing or is about to start DMing, one of the things that you might have caught is when they said, here's a warning of the triggers that are going to happen in the game, but you may not know what's going to happen in your game. If you're running a module, you might know. But my homebrew, I have no clue what's going to happen, next session from now, because who knows? So there are generic red light, yellow light, green light consent forms online that go through. I've seen one that was like 30 and another one that was like 100 different things that your players could let you know if it might be a problem for them. So you can find those consent forms for D&D online as well. We have a question that I'm putting up on the screen now. What are your thoughts on representation in D&D? Do any characters come to mind as particularly good or bad representation? I know that there was a TikTok video going around that maybe a couple of you have stitched already, but it was a woman asking how many characters in your D&D game are male. And I think it was with the intent to call out the entire male NPC, because again, we had it discussed earlier. If we have a DM who's playing NPCs, they are either playing, the man DM is either playing all male NPCs or they are doing opposite genders. So
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on representation in D&D? Is it important to your game?
I mean, in
Um,
terms of gender, we're all over the board. We've not like every gender identity possible is probably in our game. I don't really think of things in terms of like fulfilling a quota, if that makes sense. Like these are the amount of things that I need to have in the game in order for it to be diverse, like that's not really how I'm thinking about it, because you also never want to make certain identities be caricatures, obviously, or just be a
tokens.
checkbox or token. Yeah. So it's one of those things of like I'm making characters and obviously being aware of like who you are creating and things like that. But I think just in terms of gender, because my friend group is so diverse gender wise, that's always been pretty easy for me to do without like thinking about it too heavily. I've got a good mix, and I think there's a good mix amongst our audience too in terms of favorite characters and things like that. So, it's I do I guess think about it when it's brought up as a topic, but I'm not thinking about it in terms of character creation as much. But I think that's just because I'm lucky to be in a group that's just very gender diverse. So
Yeah.
we had the.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm very lucky. My group is the same way. We're also diverse, and I don't really have to think too much about fulfilling a quota because, you know, it just it kind of comes because we're all just in this space together.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Oh, go ahead.
Same,
Uh,
same
Two
way.
things. One,
sorry.
I'm so sorry about the yowling that you're hearing. I fed Oliver the cat dinner, but he
It's
wants
not
attention.
enough.
Needs attention.
I was wondering if this question was going to come up because it's something that we struggled with for Spare the Crying, which is like a podcast that we release. So we are producing something that like has or lacks representation, and just coincidentally, my table, the players don't consist of all men, but each one of them created a man character. So all of the player characters are men, and I was like, oh no, we're like a group of 4 men adventurers. They're all like queer men or like non-binary mask men, but they still ended up that way. And I was like, I don't know if I need to, like, I don't know if this means like, because we're producing something and we want to have good representation, like, does that mean I need to tell someone that they're not allowed to have a male character, which I did not do. And a lot of that comes from people at our table being like, wanting to like explore. A lot of people explore their gender through playing D&D characters, and therefore maybe don't want to play a character that reflects how people see them in the real world. So that meant that we just created like a ton of non-binary and women NPCs, and I'm all of them. So that's been great. I get to be like a lot of strong, powerful women, because like every time I need to make an NPC, I'm like, well, all the main characters are men, so like this character has to be either non-binary or a woman, or else there's going to be an imbalance. So hopefully I've like evened it out a little bit, but it was definitely a concern I had. But then there is also something to be said about the importance of having like queer and positive masculine characters represented. Sure. So I hope we do a good job with it. But yeah, I think it was an interesting thing to consider when you find yourself unexpectedly heading a party of all men.
Oops, all men.
I will say our group as well does all of the main PCs are male presenting in some sense, which wasn't even how I was thinking about the question. I was thinking about it in an NPC sense because I have control of that as the DM, but I would never, especially like I said, a lot of people who are, gender flux or different types of gender expressions within our group, I would never tell them what presentation their PC is in terms of their gender. So I guess I didn't think about that. Just in terms of what I was allowing. I just told them to play who they very strongly wanted to play. And they've brought it up on their own over time of like, I'd like to play a female character next time. Or I'd like to play someone going through their own like trans journey or something like that. Because one of our PCs does. One of our PCs is a trans demi-male and goes through like a little bit of his own personal story in our story. Not all of it, but like a little bit. And so, letting people play things that like speak to them and call to their own personal stories as well, I think is, important. And if someone resonates with a character as well, then like that's great. Like my girlfriend is in the game and she plays a male character too, but like I'm not gonna tell people when it's their PCs if they have a personal like resonating story with them, like, or just a story that they want to tell with their characters. I just don't, I guess, limit people in terms of their gender expression with their characters. So
yeah, people should make their characters how they want.
Yeah, people should like their characters. I do think that is something to like think about when you're doing a public production. But I guess I usually think of things in terms of like me the DM. So that was where I was coming from the question. So I think that was really interesting to have Moon's perspective from like a party perspective, because I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, so.
I would like to pop in also and say that if you are doing a public presentation and diversity is important to you, I think that diversity might be most effective in the cast members themselves. Like giving people a platform and an opportunity to play and bring themselves into the game. Not so much there has to be this many fictitious characters in it, but we are including these demographics into our game, which is how, like, I again,
agree.
like you said, I would never presume to tell someone what they can and can't play, but I have always had a very, very broad demographic of players in my games. And so I feel like I can't presume to tell somebody who is non-binary or trans, because I am a cishet woman, what their experiences are like. I might not even be very good at like facilitating the most efficient story for them without them collaborating on it with me. So that's why I would like to let them bring what they want to the table rather than me trying to like put it together in a way that I think is going to be the most efficient.
How about Texas Celtic? You got anything to add?
Kind of the same way, you know, letting everybody decide what they want to bring to the table. I'm not going to say, you know, no, unless it's something that's really far out there. I mean, probably going to be bringing wares into our campaign. So we've kind of had to figure it out and put some limits on stuff. It's very interesting to, you know, let everybody be them. D&D is kind of a bring everybody into the table kind of thing, and something they know, unless it's going to make anybody else uncomfortable, and to sit down and have a discussion.
Little trouble understanding you. I think I got most of that. Your mic was kind of cutting in and out there.
How far away is your
too.
mic from your mouth? You might have to bring it a little bit.
It's on my computer.
Oh, yeah. Discord has a noise gate, so it's kind of cutting you in and out.
Let me move it a little closer. Is that any better?
Yes, yes, that is
Yes.
very, very good.
Okay.
But essentially, you just let people come with what they want to play, and that's what you have. Because again, like everyone else said, you don't want to take their autonomy away, right?
Yeah, within reason, of course. There's some
Oh,
stories that should be told by certain people, but I feel like we're you know
we're assuming that.
understanding that, you know, like
Yeah.
You
Especially
never know what needs to be said.
you know,
need to be careful with that.
You're cutting out again. I think it's every time your voice drops, the Discord is like.
We're gonna have some underage players as well in our group, so we have to kind of watch on that as well. So it's kind of one of those. Yes, make it fun for the adults, but yes, also watch what you say.
yeah.
Fair. That is fair. And to wrap up this question before we move on to the next one, I completely agree with Scarlett when you said it matters with the players and the representation. And I am honestly trying my best with Behind the Screen. I did my first episode and I took all the DMs who messaged me and said, I want to be in, I want to be in, I want to be in. And we got them all on screen. And that's when I realized they are all cis men. Oh my gosh, what did I do? And it was a great session. They had wonderful things to discuss, but I did not have the representation that I wanted. So I've definitely been specifically reaching out more to DMs of different ethnicities, and I definitely wanted to do this special, not to make up for that, but kind of. But I did want to have a time when it was just our voices and input that people could appreciate.
And I would say if you have a long-term project, like you are running a show that has across multiple episodes, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself, because the fact of the matter is the largest demographic of TTRPG players are straight white males, and therefore there's just going to be a bigger pool to choose from. And it's going to happen where your whole cast will be like that. And as long as like you're giving minority voices an opportunity throughout your content creation process, I don't think you're going to be criticized for that. So I think, because there are just times when you have a show and that's who's available, and you don't want to uninvite someone or not do a show because of their demographic, because then we're going kind of backwards. We're like overcorrecting at that point.
Exactly.
But it is also appropriate to have like, this is a femme show because we're discussing femme topics that only our demographic even really has experience with. So it would be kind of silly to not to have anyone outside of that demographic. So in a case like that, I think that is a graceful way to approach it.
So I think you're absolutely right, especially if you're doing something for the public to see. Representation is important, but for your D&D game, it is up to what you are comfortable with.
Who are your friends, like
Yeah.
Yeah. I
For
think also
example,
there's
I don't know a
something that
lot
you
about.
oh, so sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say, especially for people who are just starting out and doing new shows and stuff like that, like we are our very first show, like out the gate, was what's currently public. Sticking to the people that you are most comfortable with, that you trust, that you
Mhm.
know are going to bring their best self to the table, and that aren't going to do anything that'll throw you off. I'm very open about the fact I have horrible anxiety. I cannot have people that are like complete strangers to me in like a long-term show. I can struggle through small projects with people, but I get way too nervous with people who like I just am not super familiar with, so I do stick to closer friends for that. But also you have to consider what your goals are when you're making a public show. I never want to be Critical Role. I never want to have a huge audience. I'm very
Yeah.
happy being a small, like, kind of indie show. But I think if you are aiming to be something that is bigger and larger, then you do need to have those conversations, especially early on, about bringing people in. But also, you need to make sure if you are bringing someone in because you are wanting a diverse cast and you are wanting that diversity within, that you are not doing it just to tokenize someone and check a
Yeah.
box.
And
And
I was about to
also,
say, you
yeah,
should be making friends with people who
yeah,
look different than you. Like when I first started doing this, I was already established as a content creator. So I already had a pretty diverse group of friends. And that ended up never being, I never had to think about it. And I actually didn't realize it was an issue until I started seeing these topics. I looked at my own cast and friends and I was like, oh, that really worked out. But I can see, like, if you do make the argument, I just want to play with my friends, if you're like localized, that makes sense. If you're online and you are a creator online, you should have a lot of different kinds of friends because there are huge different demographics that are in our space. And if you find yourself not really interacting with anybody except those who look and sound like you, then maybe open up your horizons and make some friends.
Yeah.
But don't force it. Don't be like,
that's what
hey,
I.
you look like I need you in my corner. So
Yeah.
like, be
That's
genuine. That's
the
weird.
number one feedback that I have heard online is to just foster genuine relationships, make friends, and bring people in, or at the very least, be very upfront about what you are doing and pay people. Like those are the two major feedbacks that I hear. Be upfront and pay people for their time and make sure they are totally on board and do a collaborative experience with them, not just you leading them. If you're bringing someone on because you want to bring diversity into your show, it is a collaboration at that point. It is not just you taking the reins. And then, like you said, be friends, be friendly, make friends, you know?
And if you're like if you run games publicly that give really good vibes, you're going to attract people. And you are
Yeah.
going to make those friends. You're not going to have to sit there and try to like hunt them down because you feel like your friends are too white. Like if you are a genuinely good person and you give good vibes, those types of people will want to be friends with you anyway, and it shouldn't be a problem.
Very good. I hope we helped you by answering that. I'm going to move on to another question. Um, if you have been in both tables with primarily men and tables with primarily not men, have you noticed different vibes between the two? I can go ahead and start. When I DM and I try and I run campaigns for myself, I try to have a mix of male and female, or just a variety of different people, or the people who just vibe together. I've never had a table that was all men or all not men. Not saying that I wouldn't do that, but just saying it's never come up. I have played at tables that were mostly men, and tables that were a mix. And I can't blame the fact that I'm going to say this on the fact that they were all men. I can't rightly say that. But at the tables that were all men, it was either through Adventure League or through a group I was playing with, and the other girl didn't show up that day. I did not have a voice. I felt overlooked and ignored, and like my character suggested something that was not the route that they would take. Um, I do feel like I was, well, like ignored basically. That might not have been the fact that I was playing with all men. It could have been mostly the fact of the men I was playing with, if you know what I mean. Um, there are different demographics of men out there, and I, the games that I was playing with at that time, I was not lucky enough to have the people that I have in my life now. So I'm not going to blame it on the men, but I will say that the vibes tend to be better if I have a bunch of different people. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I notice, I guess it's not so much a division of like men versus women. I noticed a division, or I guess a difference between playing with mostly queer players versus not as many queer players. And it's like it's it's very interesting. I think there's like a lot that can be sort of dug into about this because it's kind of a stereotype that I also experience as a truth, which is that the queer players, and I as one of them, tended to be very involved with um, like each other's backstories and the sort of like interpersonal conflict between the characters or interpersonal healing between the characters. Um, whereas the more like straight tables were a little bit less about um, I guess like a little bit less character driven almost. Like there weren't, 30-minute long like role play scenes amongst the players. Um, and neither of these were like good or bad ways to play. They're just different ways to play. But I did think it was interesting that it felt like the queer tables used D&D. I mean, of course, partially like to have fun and like have cool combat and stuff like that, but like a little bit more as a like mutual healing tool, almost like sort of a way to come together. Um, that didn't seem to happen as much when it was uh, more straight men at the table.
Were
Yeah.
you a DM during this experience, or were you a player during this experience?
I was a player for a, or I was slash still am, a player for a straight DM, and then I DM for a bunch of queer players who wanted to to have like a more character driven table.
Yeah. I I found a very similar experience. Um, when I play with more queer people at my table, it's definitely more RP character driven. It's more not in depth, but it's more like, yeah, it's more character driven, and it just feels uh I don't know, a little bit deeper. And like you said, going into like backstories and into people's like emotional responses to situations, rather than just like at some other tables I've played with straight men and either a mix. It's mostly we're going from here to here and we're gonna do this thing. We're not really taking the time to actually, think about why my character would do this, or like how my character actually feels about it. It's more just like we're playing a game, not really having an experience. But that's just the people that I've played with. But it's always different for everybody. But that's just what I've found when playing with more queer people than more straight men. It's a mix.
I definitely think there's a lot of straight guys that do love to role play. So like I'm running a private game. It's a paid game and it's pretty diverse, but mostly straight guys. But we are heavy narrative, but I put that forward. Everyone who applied has seen me DM on Twitch. I in the description I was like, this is a narrative heavy, like I really just drove that point. And so the guys that I am running this game for have done such a amazing job. Like I feel like they feel like it's a safe place to get in their feelings, and I facilitate that for them, and I draw it out of them, and I ask them how they're feeling, and I feel like they love it. uh I don't know how much of someone's unwillingness to role play comes from an embarrassment because they're not theater kids, and so they feel like they have to just take it rigidly. But when you create a place for them to just get into it, I just, you can tell they're having such a great time and they care about their characters, and it is very satisfying to lead them through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder if some of it is less of them like wanting to role play and just not having as many spaces maybe where they felt comfortable to express that like part of themselves. Because I
Mhm.
have, you know, cis male friends, a couple who identify as straight, who, you know, are very heavy role players. But it just depends, I think, on if they are in a relationship with their table that feels like they can do that. Because I also have been in tables where I've guested, and I've actually talked about this before. When I guest on shows, I put in characters I do not have as big of an emotional attachment to, because I don't know them as well. I don't know the DM as well, and I'm afraid that they will not handle my characters that I love the most appropriately. And I don't want to put that on them. I'm DMing for a guest one shot, or not DMing. I'm guesting. I would never DM as publicly. I'd die. But
What? It's
I was
fun.
like, no. But I will be a player, and I don't want them to. Basically, I'm making sure that I am safe for myself at the table, and I know going in, I will pull back on my role play because I'm unfamiliar with the table that I'm at. So,
Mm.
so I think some of it can just depend on the environment that they're in and what they've experienced before, and if they've had DMs that haven't facilitated role play as well, because sometimes they just haven't been in tables yet where that's been allowed necessarily for them. They've been in
Yeah.
very combat focused tables, and once you take them out of those spaces, I feel a lot of people can get into role play. They just need to find the tables that facilitate it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels so good being the person to facilitate that. Like
Yes.
it is such an awesome thing. I love
Yeah.
DMing.
You guys are getting some love in the chat. Eye of the Night says that he wants to be in the narrative heavy campaign. He says, love me some RP. And we've got lots of people saying the same. And a lot of people agreeing that you hit it right on the head when you said the magic words. Well, and what was it? It's a comfort thing, being able to be
Yeah.
comfortable in the space.
And as a DM, you do have to be very delicate with people's emotions. Like it's almost like a therapist in a way, where you want to make sure, especially if someone is new to DMing or role playing, you don't want to make them feel nervous or don't want to make them feel embarrassed. If they do something out of their comfort zone, be encouraging and just, like soothing and like, you're doing a great job. Like, let's explore this. How are you feeling? Don't be dismissive. It's a lot of work, but it also is very satisfying work because you feel like you're making like a positive impact. And when
Yeah.
everyone is cheering at the end, you're like, I did it.
You did it.
I didn't
Did
know when I became a
it.
DM that also meant I became a therapist at the same time, but it is.
Yes.
Yep.
It is.
I found
Celtic, you got anything? Oh, go
sorry.
ahead, Taylor, and then Texas.
Oh, I was just gonna build off of that. I was gonna say I found that to make people more comfortable at my table is for me to be silly and to get heavy into the role play. So it makes my players who aren't super comfortable with role play or their characters feel more comfortable in doing that. Because if I'm just being silly or if I'm getting into characters, then I feel like it opens up a space for them to get into it and feel a bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Like you are willing to put yourself I'm super goofy when I
Yeah,
am
me
DMing
too.
and role play. I am not afraid to make ugly faces and ugly voices and giggle and laugh. And I feel like I've noticed that people who are like shelled up at first find that, oh, this is an environment where I could do the most embarrassing thing ever and no one's going to make fun of me. They're just going to laugh along.
Yeah,
So that's,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah.
Also,
Texas, your turn.
Yeah.
Well, we have one of our male characters. We always joke with him. You don't make a backstory that's fairly detailed. We get to make a backstory for you, and then you're on your own. So we've done that with him. He's from Tortuga, and he said, "Okay, we get to play with it then. You didn't come up with anything else though. But it helps make it comfortable.
So the threat of letting their lives basically be in the DM's hand
Pretty much, yeah,
made
pretty
him
much.
want to write a backstory. Awesome.
I think also I just wanted to add not pushing people who are new to roleplay to super get into it. Some people don't want to put on a character voice. People have to, specify they're like, my character is talking now because I'm not putting on a voice, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
fine. And then also not pushing them to extend like scenes when they don't want to. Because sometimes people don't want to roleplay that out, and you're just like, we're gonna roleplay this, and they're like, I don't want to. You're like, well, we haven't roleplayed yet, so we're gonna roleplay this scene. Like, don't push someone when they're not ready
Always
roleplay
ask them,
this.
would you like to roleplay
Yeah.
this? And then if
Yeah.
not, then I'll do a quick little, all right, so then your character and this NPC, they're going to have a conversation and this, and you come to this conclusion. Definitely wait until they're ready.
Yeah, for sure.
I just wanted to say, because I've been seeing it the whole stream, I love your little mimic thing.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
so cute. I've been staring at it. It took
was
me
a
a
gift
while to
from one of my
realize.
players.
It took me a while to
Oh.
realize it was not a giant mimic behind you. But once I figured that out, like
I'm the one that thought that. I thought that was behind her too.
Oh,
I thought you had like a big mimic plushie just in your corner at first.
I'd be like, what mimic plushie?
No.
Oh no.
Just cuts to black, and then it comes back. She's not there.
Oh,
That's
no.
when the dramatic lightning that I'm currently getting would come into your screen.
Well, let's move on to another question. And since we're getting
We have a special
closer,
guest.
not
I'm
to
so
not
sorry.
quite to the end, but getting closer to the end, let's move on to something a little more fun. What's your most proud DM moment where a player really bought into the world or story you presented them? And I'll start and take a page out of Tanis's book, where I will say it's when you can get your players to cry in a good way. If you can get them to cry in a good way, that's amazing. I have had several moments like that. One, and I won't say he cried, but he did tear up. I got my husband to tear up. I had two players just absolutely need a break afterwards and for good reasons. One of them, it helped them get through a depression that they didn't know that they were currently going through. I created a depression monster, so to speak, and they had to fight it. And when they defeated it, I described the scene as there was this weight lifted off their shoulders that they didn't realize was there, and the room and the world seemed a little brighter than it was before. And the player just like had this moment where mentally they were able to realize that they were having an issue that they didn't know that they had, and she broke down crying. And it was a good cry because now she knew how to make herself feel better. And then just recently, I had a player character's dead brother that was written in the backstory that he was dead, protect her from the afterlife, kind of like a guardian angel situation. And doing that made her cry. I did not realize until later that she has an estranged relationship with her real life brother. And the idea of a brother protecting her just made her like feel so happy and warm inside. So that was a mistake, but it was a happy accident. But has anyone ever had a moment where a player like really got into your story and either just had a hell yeah moment or they cried for a good reason?
I
I was
Moon
gonna say,
smiling.
you go, Moon. You go, Moon.
oh
I pass the potato. I throw the potato at you.
Thank
Hot
you.
potato. There you go.
Hold it tenderly.
You're the hot potato.
I have a character in a position of authority, like I guess you'd call it like the equivalent of a president, kind of, but it's like anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, they're in a position of authority, and I I was very nervous about the characters meeting them because they're supposed to be very uh, mysterious and intimidating, and I am neither mysterious nor intimidating. Um, so all the characters like went to meet this character, and they asked or I asked in character at the table a question, and everyone was just silent for like 10 seconds. And I sat there and I was like, hey guys, like, are you like bored? Like, do you want to take a break? It's okay if you do, like, we can stop. And they're like, no, we're just scared of them. And I mean, I guess like maybe it's a little mean to like be happy that my friends were too scared to talk to me. But it was pretty satisfying.
Amazing. I had a similar experience to that where, yeah, they weren't really a president, but or a monarch, but yeah, I was trying to create an intimidating ruler of this land, and yeah, once again, I'm not super intimidating, but same thing happened. And sorry, that wasn't my story, but it's just similar. My story is in this campaign I was running, a lot of my players really like suspense and kind of like thriller stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so they were like traveling along this road, and it was nighttime, and all the lights were dim, like in like OOC, out of game, and it was really awesome because I managed to create this very suspenseful vibe, and they could feel that something was watching them and like slowly like stalking them in the woods. It's not a very deep moment, but it was just like they've actually, like, after the session they were like, that was awesome. We actually felt like kind of like nervous and scared, but in a really, really good way. Like, just kind of setting the vibe and setting the scene in a good way. It just made me feel very proud.
I'd say mine, which I mean, it's more common now. This wasn't a public game, but I'm always looking for new things to try to experiment with in our games and stuff like that from like a technical perspective. And for those who don't watch our show, I use voice mods for a lot of the NPCs. And the first time I ever did it, I didn't tell anyone I was going to do it. So they met basically the god of everything for the first time. And I just remembered the fear in my player's voice when I was just like, you can see me. And it was like this horrifying voice that came through. And they were like, what is that? What is that? Like, and that was probably one of my biggest like moments of pride, like as a DM, was afterwards one of my players being like, every time I don't think you can set the bar higher, you somehow manage to do it again. And also with that though, you gotta be a little careful. Sometimes you set the bar too high, and then you freak yourself out with giving yourself too high expectations and getting imposter syndrome and stuff like that. And then you have 15 voice mods you have to switch between for your sessions. So, like, you gotta be careful to not like overdo it. But I do remember that being like such a good moment the first time that I like ever did that, and was like, I custom make them too. So like I could be like, look at this thing that I made. It took me 5 days to figure out how to make GarageBand filter through so you could hear it. But like that was, from a technical standpoint, those are always the moments that I find to be the most fun. We're an all artist cast, and we do our battles on Roll20 and stuff like that too. And the first time I had an animated boss fight moment was so fun, because you can make Roll20 gifs be animated, and they were like, it's moving, like those are the moments that are always really fun to like when I basically can like impress people with something that I've worked really hard on from either an audio or visual standpoint. So
You're
Someone in chat is asking, where do they find voice mods?
there is a program called VoiceMod, which is much simpler than what I do, and I recommend it if you can figure it out because GarageBand is not built for that, and you will tear your hair out to get it. I'm stuck with it because it's what we started with, and I cannot recreate the voice mods in VoiceMod itself. But that's the program I know most people tend to use. There is some finickiness you still have to figure out if you want to record it, because you have to make sure that things are picking up to like make it that VoiceMod is recording. Because you can't put things into VoiceMod and then have it come out. It has to be like filtered through. So do a
Yeah,
lot of tech
Audio
experimenting.
is so complicated. I want to bounce off of what you said because I was sitting here thinking, what, like I couldn't think of my instance because there's so many instances that I glow with pride that would require an entire story to give context to. But I will take what you said. I do a lot of the art and music for my games, and I think
That's
that
so cool.
watching my players like doing this to some battle music that I wrote, and just getting into it, I was like, they like my battle song. That makes me so happy. And so every time I'd like have a new little like music track for one of the areas or the battle or whatever that I made, and they were like just jamming to it, it just made me feel so excited because like you said, I've worked so hard on this thing and I want you guys to appreciate it. Praise me, please. And then,
Yeah, custom music is crazy. I don't do that. Like,
it's been a long
but
time. I made the custom music before I had a baby, so it's been a while. But I do pull those old tracks I made out, and every time I do, I made like a psytrance orchestral piece as like the main theme / boss battle music for my game, and it is a bit of a bop. It's got a good beat, so everyone's like, "Yeah, mm."
Yeah, I'm that way with lore. Like, I am a huge like mythology nerd, so I'm that way with mythology. When my players picked up on my mythology, I'm like, yes, you guys got it. Yes.
Oh, that feels so good when they pick up your little threads and put it
Mhm.
together correctly.
Oh, I'd say that's also really fun when you're after a session, like not in session, but we have a theories channel within our actual game. One of the players asked for it, which was very fun
I
for me
love
to be
that
like, "You want
idea.
this? You want to make theories?" And so they're our note taker, my girlfriend, and she's just like, "I'm connecting the dots." And sometimes I'm like, "You didn't connect anything," but other times she did actually connect the dots. And I have a really bad poker face, which is why we don't have camera on when we play. But because she lives with me, she can come into my room and be like, "Hey, I have a theory," and I'm like, "Oh no!" And she'll tell me, and I have to be like, no expression change, like
All this
that's
is
a
what you do. This is
great
what my
theory,
dungeon
you know?
this is what my dungeon master does. She goes, "Who can say? Who can
We always
I
say
don't know.
we'll confirm everything anyone says. Like you'll always be right.
say?" What if they come up with an even better idea than you started with and you go, "You know what? I think I'm just going to go with what they're thinking because that's actually a lot cooler."
I feel like everyone's
Yep.
done that at least once.
Yes,
Where you're
that
just
has
like,
happened.
forget what I said. What you said is correct. You know, I was wrong. Thank you for informing me that my story was wrong and that is
Oh.
the correct theory.
Or don't even have to say anything. Just be like, "Yeah, totally. That's
I-
exactly what I had planned."
This is the story I probably tell the most frequently because it's so funny. But so we have episodes coming out and they're very delayed from when we record. So we were in like call and we were talking post session and my partner was like, "Hey, can you bring up a picture of this NPC real fast?" And I was like, "Sure." And I put it in the chat and they're like, "Okay. Now can you put this NPC in the chat?" And I was like, "Oh no." And I put the other NPC in the chat and they're like, "That's the same person." And I was like,
Oh no.
there's just a long pause. Even no poker face, no camera, so I didn't even need a poker face. And I just go, "Why would you think that?" Like I gave it away instantly. And I was like, "No." And then because of a certain episode that was coming out that week that heavily foreshadowed this, I was like, I had the reveal the next session because I was like, "You've put it together, you figured it out."
You know what? Let
I
them
need
hold
to
on to
like
that. Like, let them go, "Yes, we had it right." Make them doubt themselves for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
second, but
I
then
think it did actually take a couple sessions to get to that point. So like they had kind of forgotten a little bit about it, but like the actual reveal happened, and they're just screaming in the background. They're like, "I knew it! I got it!" Like,
Have you
but
guys
I'm
ever had a
such a
moment?
bad liar. Such a bad liar, which is hard when you do mystery as a big thing for your games. So I have to just be like, I just gotta shut up a lot, because if I say stuff, I'm gonna give it away. Like,
I
Have you
usually
guys ever had a? Oh, go ahead, Mo. Go ahead, Moon.
oh no, it's my because I also have a bad poker face. I just smile no matter what. Like that's so that's been like easier than trying to be expressionless no matter what. And I don't know, that's the strategy I'd recommend to you because it's a little it helps a little bit with
I've
the
been trying that, but I feel like sometimes I have worse tells when I'm trying not to have a tell, when I'm trying to cover it up. So I'll just be like, that's a great idea, you know, whatever you just said, maybe it's correct. And then also I mean, it's my partner of like a billion years at this point, so she's like, I can tell. Like, I'm like, dang it.
You
Stop
know,
asking me
though,
questions.
that's when you say you as a player might have figured it out, but your character doesn't know. So zip it.
Oh yeah, she's good with that. Like she's had things that she's put together that in game haven't come out for like 2 years that like she's had to like sit on, and like she'll ask me, she'll be like, "Do I have enough information that my character could have put it together yet?" And I'm like, "Maybe just look a little more, and then you could do the big reveal," you know. So
Have you guys ever had a moment where your players look at you with anger and hatred? Not at you necessarily, but because you are playing that villain, you've gotten them
Oh,
so
for
invested
sure.
that they just absolutely hate that person.
Oh,
Oof.
for sure.
I
That's
love
one of
that.
the reasons I love doing remote so much is the gift of having a chat. So when an NPC comes in that the players hate, they're like, this guy sucks, and they just start like spamming the chat. They're like, boo, you know, and I'm like, yes, good. This is the reaction that I wanted when you see this person, you know, like
I have mostly played at tables. I've DM'd a couple of one shots online, but I know that I've got them when I have the realization that they are all standing and I'm still sitting. Like if they are standing in the middle of combat, they are on. Like there is something wrong in a good way. They are mad.
I haven't yet, but I have a feeling when our BBEG gets revealed, oh, we're gonna have some of that reaction. It's gonna be somebody might throw something at me and my co-DM.
Yep, every now and then you need a shield. Like, wait, it's me. I'm your friend. Stop it.
I
Maybe
guess we
playing
sometimes
online
have-
is the better choice. They can't hurt.
they can't get you. Unless you live with them, and then they can still come get you if they really want to. So
we sometimes have the opposite problem where the villains are pretty and therefore they maybe don't hate them as much as they should.
I can
But
fix
that's also a
them.
win.
I can fix them, or they can make me worse. One of the two will
Exactly.
happen, you know?
I have had that almost happen in a campaign where there was a female player going, he's really hot. So but he's kind of got bad morals. Ooh, this is a tough choice.
I mean, my campaign that's coming to a close currently features Gratz, which is the demon lord of horniness and hotness. So that's been fun. Every time
my
he's on
campaign
I might have to steal that.
Mhm.
I had a morally gray tiefling paladin man in a campaign that just came to an end, and I was so sure that they would kill him at the end of the campaign, but instead they made it so he could ascend to godhood and become immortal.
Oh my gosh.
Whoops.
So
Whoops.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's
a
dangerous to make your
twist.
villains too pretty.
I do like when players work hard enough at something to like be basically when I've had like villains where I'm like, this person's not redeemable and they are not intended to be redeemable, and my players are like, we'll see about that, and they work on it until eventually they make something happen that I didn't expect. Obviously, in some cases, there are villains where it's like, okay, you can never be fully forgiven. I've kind of messed you up too much. But there are morally gray villains that can be swayed in certain ways, and it's always really
Yeah.
rewarding to do those long con games, especially when your intention isn't necessarily for them to be redeemed, but the players are like, we got this. We're gonna make something beautiful that you don't even know is coming. Like.
Amazing. All right. Any other stories where players have really bought into your campaign before we move on to what might be our final question of the night?
Sharon brought up a good point. I forgot about this one, but it was our former campaign. He basically was dating the god of Loki because of a twist in her backstory, and it became a very big thing in the campaign. It was very interesting, and I don't know if she liked it or disliked it, but it was very funny.
Fair. I have a character that, under the influence of a siren song, seduced the siren. Wait a minute. You were under the influence of a siren song and you ended up seducing the siren?
Fantastic.
That had to be one epic dice roll, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this honestly is not one of the questions. There we go. Put the placeholder in. But I wanted to make sure we address this question before we maybe finish up for the night. As females and non-binaries, we know that there are other people just like us that are maybe wanting to get into D&D, maybe not DMing, but D&D in general, and they don't know how, or they don't know how to make sure that they are entering into a safe space. What recommendations would you have for people who want to start playing D&D, who maybe are hesitant because they're not a cis man?
Just find groups that are more femme, or at least have proven that they're safe. Like, don't just jump into a random group. The internet makes it so easy to find people to play with.
Yeah. If you
Also-
want to get your feet wet with some experience before trying to bring your own friends in and stuff like that, if there's no DMs, I did just want to say, just because some people think that it's not a real job, but there are paid DMs out there that a lot of them are affordable too, or offer free sessions for you to get started, depending on what you're looking for, and that can be a good place to start with. Obviously, find someone within your budget, and if you can't afford it, then that's totally fine. But there are some options for you to get your feet wet, especially if you need someone to be that first person in your group to have some experience, to kind of go and explore. I know Roll20 has a lot of things that you can look up for paid games, and there's, what is it? Is it Start Playing?
Start
Is that
playing
the other
dot
one?
games.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can see what they offer kind of when you're looking at them, where it says like, I am like inclusive, like I either like if depending on what your preferences are, like I'm an LGBT DM, I'm a Black DM, I'm a POC DM, something that like to make you feel more comfortable before kind of bringing that into your friend group, because sometimes you just need to be the person to do it. I was the person to do it, to finally be like, we're doing D&D, you guys, I don't know how to play and we're going to find out together. But sometimes that can be daunting, so like giving yourself that experience with something else, or maybe inviting your friends who you want to play with you into like a paid game, because some of them run for like $10, $15, $20 a session, and if you guys all come together to do like a paid game, see if you like it, and then from there with that experience you can jump into it. I think just people a lot of times are under the assumption that like there is no way for them to get into it if none of them are willing to DM, and there are ways, and there are also free ways, but like that's just one of them that I feel like it's a lot of bad rep a lot of the time. We should support our paid DMs too, because they do good work and it is a real job, damn it, like
I'm running my very first paid game right now. We've had 2 sessions, and the effort that these players are putting into it because they paid for their seat,
Mhm.
it's beautiful. This is one of the best groups I've ever run. It is so, and because I'm getting paid, I am putting my heart and soul into the prep and making it the most amazing experience. One of my players has never played 5th edition before, so I'm like, message me anytime. I will walk you through the process. I've sat in video call or voice calls with them, walking them through character creation. So you will get a nice experience if you have a good DM.
Awesome. Yeah. I was also the one who had to bring D&D to my friend group because none of them had ever played before. But I found that I went to a convention and I played in a couple games there. And when I signed up for the games, to hopefully make sure that it was a safe space, I looked and it said LGBTQ plus friendly, safe space, like, and it, like with paid GMs, it's just figuring out what you're comfortable with, and figuring out that the DM that you're gonna be in a group with has the same values as you.
Absolutely. Texas Celtic or Moon?
I
Yeah, you can go ahead.
definitely think, safe space, and also to try your local game stores too. Sometimes it may be hit or miss, like I've said, but they can be good and they can be bad. I know our one in Tyler, Texas, that we go to a lot, Nico, we do free sessions every month. They have starters, like people will teach you how to play D&D. They're so it all depends on what you're comfortable with. I know a lot of people are not comfortable going up into that kind of setting, but also look online. There's a lot of smaller sessions. Like there's a lot of different ways to do it. Just like I said, look and see what you're comfortable with, and also try different things too. Sometimes you may not realize you're okay with it until you try it. It's kind of one of those hit or miss kind of things, and be open and communicative with whoever you're playing with and say, hey, this isn't for me. And if it's not, okay. If it is, great.
Absolutely. Moon?
Yeah, I think one thing is it is important to keep in mind that it's always okay to leave a table if you're just getting started and you're a few sessions in and you realize that it's maybe not one that you're comfortable with. Like I've seen a lot of people like in our Discord server talk about like sort of dreading going to D&D because their table ended up not being the kind of community they want to be with, and I'm always like, just go. Like D&D should always be fun.
Yeah.
No D&D is better than bad D&D.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then also like the only reason why we're all playing, my friends and I are all playing D, why we have a show, is because I decided that we all decided we should play. I decided I could DM, and none of us knew how to play D&D, like at all. So I think a lot of people have a community around them who are all interested, but think that they don't have a table right in front of them because no one knows how to play D&D. But honestly, I think because it's or other TTRPGs, like we're talking about D&D specifically, but other TTRPGs can be a little bit less intimidating. Like the rules aren't so daunting, and I think it's okay, especially when you're with a bunch of friends who are wishing that they had a table, to play a few very clumsy, perhaps sort of mechanically awkward TTRPG games, and that's sort of how you learn, and how you can guarantee at least that you'll be around friends while you play.
Just to bounce off that real quick and to reiterate, your friendships are always more important than D&D. I have seen friendships end because of D&D games, and if someone is uncomfortable or you are uncomfortable, it is always the right choice to either step away or to rework the game or to just sometimes D&D just in general ends up not being for someone, and that's okay. And you want to always make sure you are prioritizing your relationship with your friends above a game. Relationship always more important than game. That is how it goes always,
Absolutely. And it's been mentioned a couple times, and also someone mentioned it in chat. don't be afraid to try and fail, honestly. You may join a group and it's not the right group for you. I joined a group and I pushed through even though I was getting bad vibes from the group. I should have left. I really should have, but I wanted to play D&D. But don't be afraid to join a group and then if it doesn't work out or you have a bad experience, try again because I tried again and it didn't have the same problems. It had different problems and that group fell apart, but that's when I started to become a DM. And now through them, I've also met my current dungeon master, who's been honestly the best dungeon master that I've ever had because all the other ones have been uh, crap. No offense, Cap. I've had you one time, but I know you're in the chat. But Dustin has definitely been the best dungeon master I've ever had. And I wouldn't have found him if I gave up after 2 failures. So just keep trying. There
So
is a group
don't
out
be
there
like my
for you.
aunt.
Don't
Who
be like
quit
your aunt.
forever.
Yes, your poor aunt. We're gonna have to force her in a game. Just like, come on, you can join us for just a little bit. Come on, just one.
She's not into gaming. Again, she's
Good
older.
soul.
She's older. She's my mother's age, so and
Just
that
have
this
her show
happened
up
when she
one
was a
day
teenager.
and be like,
Start
"Oh, the dice are
calling
just
out
out,
bad
and
words. Yeah.
here in this combat mat's already
Yeah.
out. It's a shame if we let it go to waste."
I know.
Jordan says we need to start normalizing calling out bad DMs. Yes, we need to call out bad DMs for what they are. Just because if someone is making you uncomfortable at the table, that needs to be said because
Yes.
no one's going to grow if you just keep it quiet. And if you call them out for it and they become hostile towards you, verbally or otherwise, all the more reason to leave, right? So
Yeah.
we are 9 minutes until the end of our stream. So I would love to wrap up with you telling us where everyone can find you if you have an online presence. Um, just wrap up with some final thoughts if you have any, but let's start at the bottom and move our way to the top. Spare the Crying podcast. Moon, would you please tell us about you and where people can find you?
Yeah. So you can find us at Spare the Crying Podcast on most social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. I also just made a start playing games account.
Ooh.
So you can I'll be posting about it soon once I get my schedule uploaded. But you'll be able to find me there as well too if you want to ever play a game together.
Yay.
Wonderful. Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Scarlett. You can find me Scarlett64 everywhere. I run several actual plays on my Twitch, including to Sunday. We're only a few episodes away from finishing Out of the Abyss, which is a almost 3-year campaign with the same
dang.
cast of characters, and it is so narrative heavy, and there have been tears and cheers and breakups, and it's been crazy. So if you want to see the end of that, and we'll be doing a season 2 soon after. You can also find me on all the other social medias. I do a ton of TTRPG content on TikTok and Instagram, and I am an illustrator. I do D&D art, and I made the Desert Dragons, and there are stickers on my shop. So if you want to support me that way, you can find me there.
I
And
saw them
Desert
earlier.
Dragon
They're
stickers
so
are
cute.
Thanks.
Yep,
They are.
they are so
I
cute.
love them. They're so cute.
They want to be adopted.
Taylor.
Me. Yeah, I'm Taylor. I'm Taylor's Tavern Tales on every platform. I have YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Discord. And yeah, I also have a shop that just opened, and I also just started selling stickers that I designed.
Aw.
Yeah. So anywhere that anyone wants to follow or support me, it's just Taylor's Tavern Tales on everything.
All right. And Cassie roll.
Our main platform is just my YouTube under the same name, Casserole. I am haphazardly on TikTok in bursts and waves, and then I vanish. So you can find us there sometimes at Chosen Ones D&D. But if you want to find us where we're most active, we would be on YouTube at my channel Casserole for our show, and then I also re-upload some of the TikToks onto my shorts as well. So either place you'll find the content eventually. But if you just want little skits and silly things, our TikTok is Chosen Ones D&D.
Awesome. Texas Celtic.
I am still building my online presence, but I am Texas Celtic 07 on TikTok. And we also have a Discord channel called Pirates Bounty that is set up for our campaign. And also I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. It's under my name. And we are also in the process of doing a photography called Mystical Moon Media. We already have our website set up, but like I said, we are in the process. So it's a brand new thing.
Amazing. All right. And I've been the host today. I am Nerdy Teacher. You can find me on TikTok. I haven't been posting as much this year, but I'm hoping to post more as, of course, I have summer. So I have summers off as a teacher, so I can come back and post a lot. I also have an Etsy store where I also sell D&D stickers and other related stuff, but it is on Etsy called Crit. And if you have any sticker ideas, you're welcome to throw them at me. I love taking comments from everybody and turning your ideas into stickers. So
Should have a sticker creator stream.
I know. I was like, this is the sticker stream. Wow. We could have been talking about our favorite techniques.
we should do an artist DM stream after this. All right. So with that, I will go ahead and wrap it up and thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank all of my lovely people here for coming in for this special. It was fun trying to get all of your schedules to align. I'll say that, but the heavens parted and we got today, so it was amazing. And I've gotten some DMs saying that they really appreciated that this special was happening. So this may be something that we'll have to do it again.
Yay.
But I hope everyone has an amazing weekend ahead of them and an amazing table waiting for them to play with. And I'll end it with my favorite saying, may all of your rolls be crits. Good night, everybody.